They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong.
So, final question. Always goes to the guest. Anything you've ever wanted to ask me, now is your chance. If you got nothing, because I like to throw curveballs, you can always plead the fifth, and we'll go right on home.
Well, I wasn't ready for that one, but I mean, I think I want to know what your first audio experience was like.
Oh my God.
Where you were just like, audio is magic, because you talk about it so highly.
Okay. So do you mean audio in general or audio I've produced?
Like not in the professional extent.
Okay.
Like, did you have, like, I had a time when I was like, journalism is magic, and it had nothing to do with like school, and it had nothing to do with the teacher. Like, you know, did you find out that audio was magic?
I know the exact moment. I don't remember where I told this story or if I released this story, but I'll tell it again because it's a podcast. I'm going to tell the same story multiple times. So, when I was a child, a very young child, either in kindergarten or before kindergarten, I would go to my grandmother's house across town because obviously my parents worked. And my dad would drop me off. You know, we would drive up, we'd see the school buses in the church. We'd count the school buses, 1, 2, 3, 4. And my dad was a big fan of Boston sports talk radio. It's like WEEI, you know, Dennis and Callahan in the morning, like whatever, sports radio. Bunch of angry Boston people talking about how awful the Red Sox were in the early 2000s. So it was then and there where I would hear these guys talking on the radio that just had me hooked. And back then, podcasts weren't really a thing. The internet wasn't a thing. So the only place I could listen to it was in the car. And being a little kid, I didn't drive, obviously. You know, my mom would listen to Sheryl Crow in the car or Aerosmith, and she wouldn't change the radio station to talk radio for a 7-year-old. No. So it was then where I actually fell in love with audio storytelling. And that kind of thing was implanted in my brain. Because eventually when in high school, I got a car. I rode to school. You know, I didn't listen to the radio. I listened to the radio, but the favorite thing I would listen to was, I forget the name of it, but it was like prank calls where the radio station would call these random numbers, the senseless survey. And they would see how many questions they can get. And it was just the funniest thing to me. And then I found podcasting. And I was like, oh, what I love about the radio, I can have in my pocket whenever I want. And then I was just off to the races. So
you know, and there's something so great about that, about those jokes in the morning. It's funny because I think when I moved to New York, funny enough, well, no, it's not that odd. Like when I moved to New York, I stopped listening to local radio because I was just like, I had my lineup of podcasts and I like what I like, right? It was like the NPR, the Daily, and I don't know, Latino USA. But I come back home and I sit in a car and turn on the radio and you hear people like throwing jokes, like making jokes about Chicago or, you know, like doing a prank call. And it's just like, there's something so small towny, but like also just very like comforting about that, because it just feels like you're surrounded by warmth, by people. And so I do have to say, I do love that. I love that effect. I love feeling that.
It was very personal, which is just really my whole philosophy on podcasting and my philosophy on content creation. Where as long as you're doing what you want to do, someone's going to like it, even if that someone is just you. And that's totally okay.
That's totally okay. But I think you have a few more people will.
Oh yeah. No, I got at least a dozen. At least a dozen. We'll see. I don't know, Lyanne. Like, it's not my job to sell the content. It's my job to make the content. I'm trying to sell the content, but my expertise is not social media. My expertise is not the content. My expertise is these bubbles you see floating around our heads. My expertise is editing the 7 clips I know for a fact I'm going to cut from this podcast. Like, my expertise is convincing someone why they need a podcast. Because like my expertise is bringing someone on a podcast that get off and go, I need to start one of these today. You know, that's my expertise. So And it's just fun. Like like I say in the intro, I'm invincible behind this microphone. It's the purest version of myself.
I love it. I love it. And that intro, I'm still like smiling over it. I think it was so great. It was awesome.
Yeah, that deep voice is me too. Welcome to
You said that.
Yeah.
And I genuinely thought it was too different. Do you do voice acting?
No, I tried very briefly. Also when I was unemployed, I tried to become a voice actor, but so that voice is actually my impression of Neil St. Clair, who was the first person who hired me out of college. Love that man to death. And he talks very low. Hey gang, like how you doing? Like he's just that kind of guy. So I just always kept that voice like, okay, this voice is perfect for the intro. And then me, because I wanted to do this intro like a sports talk radio, old-timey intro.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I love it.
Those are the notes I gave. I picked the music and I told Christian, just have fun with it. And that's what he gave me. I was like, this is perfect. Perfect.